It looks beautiful. George Miller, like one of the all-time greats. I mean, this is a man who only makes things that he wants to make. He's not a stooge for a studio or anything like that. This guy is an absolute creative, and everything that he makes is 100%. He has to want to do it. So there's no thing like they didn't twist his arm and say, oh, you have to make this because, you know, this, that, and the other. I want to remind people, this was announced 3 years ago. I believe 2020 is when they announced, or it was talked about that this was going to happen. So this isn't like a movie where they're like, they quickly got together and said, we need to make something with Furiosa. Like this is, he wanted to make this movie. We have to keep that in mind because it seems like there is a little bit of like outrage padding that's going on with this. And I think we're seeing some of the chud people sort of test the waters on this, which is weird because like Junkie XL made the music for this. George Miller is in charge of it. It's based on a character that everybody fucking loved from Fury Road. Like literally there's no reason to be going after this movie for any kind of like woke feminism type thing. It shouldn't be even talked about.
It's going to be one of those interesting ones that where it's like that. Yeah, they're definitely going to have to test the waters and see where people are going to land on it. So we're going to see. I'm going to go ahead. I think we can predict there's going to be some weird takes. There's going to be some, not on the same page from different chuds that normally are on the same page, stuff like that.
Well, here's one from Heel versus Babyface. Sweet Lord, please make it stop. Just the stunning and brave.
What?
Yep. That was his reaction to the trailer. And one of the first replies is, love Anya and Chris as actors, but this looks terrible. And he goes, same.
What? How do
you watch that trailer and you think it's stunning and brave, which is one of the dumbest taglines that they've ever used in that community? But how do you look at that trailer and think that based on everything we just discussed? How do you get to that point? Is he suggesting that George made this because of like wokeness?
I don't know. I mean, it looks just like Mad Max, Fury Road. I don't remember this. So that was, I guess that was before really kind of like things really took off with the chud grift like that.
So this is weird. So he did this and I was like, oh, this is kind of wild, right? Like the fact that he would post this and then so many people came on, under his tweet. Sorry, I would like to apologize. I sadly neglected all the outpouring from people over the last 8 years begging for a Furiosa origin story, which, by the way, I have to point out, this was announced 3 years ago. If you wanted to complain about it, you should have been complaining about it back then. That much beloved character that people are dying to see again. It has after all, dominated all spaces and conversation for years now. My cynical reaction to a green screen utopia was rash. So, again, I think, obviously, there's a little bit of, like, salt there with the response. Sort of conceding, but also making fun of people that are talking about this. I just find it a little odd to me that you would go after something that is literally not any of those things. It's not a girl boss movie. It's not any of those things they normally go after. This one is literally a character that was already introduced in a previous movie, was already announced to have this movie coming out, this prequel movie coming out. And it's made by a creative person, one guy working with his own team to put this movie out. And his track record speaks for itself. This is just so fucking dumb. This is just so dumb to me. And it's not that I expect much from Az anyway, because again, he's a slime mold with Twitter. But it's like, I said this on another video where I talked about, how they target movies and things. They say it about everything, and then it just doesn't happen, and they forget they ever even said it. They tried to AstroTurf so many movies this year, and so many of them they tried to AstroTurf succeeded, but nobody ever remembers those movies. Keep in mind, they AstroTurf Barbie. That's the biggest movie of the year.
So, interestingly, I just checked, I guess the main three that come to my mind anyway, Drinker, Geeks and Gamers, and Nerdrotic, and none of them have a video on Fury Road.
Interesting. And remember, that also had a black and white release too. So it came out, it did 2 releases. So
yeah, there was an algorithmic reason to do it too. Yeah. And I wonder what the reason is for that, because like it's kind of just the perfect film to catch them up, right? Like, yeah, because it's generally beloved by pretty much everybody. I don't know.
Yeah.
if I've ever heard of anybody disliking that movie.
I want to point out also that if they wanted to sort of prove that they're not just misogynistic, that was a great movie to be like, look, Furiosa is a great character in this film. She's a woman. We love her. But yet again, the fact that it's just a woman in a movie, they think woke MCU, feminism stuff. This is George Miller we're talking about.
This isn't
like Disney or Warner Brothers or anything like that. Oh, sorry. What were you going to say?
I was just saying she passes the Bechdel test, though, is the problem. And that's they wouldn't like that, I would imagine, if they really, had to comment on it. Like, not that they know really what that means, but they can sense it. You know what I mean? Like, I remember in Pillar of Garbage's video about Nerdrotic and how they talked about fucking Blue Beetle, that Ryan Kendall actually said at one point that he was praising the movie in a couple of ways, because he was like, it's traditional family values, and like the girlfriend doesn't like, she doesn't like tell him what to do. She's not bossy and stuff like that. It's like, this is the kind of shit they actually look at.
It must really suck to live in their world where you have to, everything you look at has to be micro managed and held under some sort of weird standard where you can't just go out and enjoy something. Like, I am totally on board with going to see something and then deciding whether you like it or not. And whatever your criticism is at that point is whatever it is. I'm never trying to change anybody's mind or anything like that. But I think and I know people hate to use this metric, but it's a very standard way of looking at things. There's a track record with them where a trailer comes out, it has a woman in it, has a person of color in it as lead, it has a queer person in it, whatever. It's almost like the standard immediately goes, this is going to be shit right away, and there's nothing you can do to make me go into this movie without that bias existing.